From the 64,000-ton steel fortresses reduced to scrap by aircraft to the $0 combat record of giants lost to internal chemical failures, these 15 machines represent the total collapse of the battleship era. The mechanical autopsy of the World War II naval graveyards begins now. Pay close attention to the final entry, a masterpiece of engineering that didn't die in battle, but was systematically dismantled by its own internal instability, redefining the meaning of a fortress at sea. Number 1. Yamato. In 1945, the Yamato represented the absolute limit of displacement at 64,000 tons. During Operation Tengo, it was targeted by 386 aircraft from the United States Navy. The mechanical failure was not in its 460mm guns, but in its inability to process the kinetic energy of 11 torpedo hits on a single side. The counter-flooding systems failed as the ship's center of gravity shifted beyond the point of recovery. Number 2. Roma. The 1943 loss of the Roma marked the first time a capital ship was destroyed by a precision-guided weapon. The German Fritz X radio-controlled bomb struck at 1,030 kilometers per hour, bypassing the 280mm armored deck through pure kinetic penetration. It detonated in the forward engine room, triggering a thermal runaway in the magazine that vaporized the ship's core in seconds. Number 3. HMS Barham. In 1941, HMS Barham demonstrated the fatal relationship between thermodynamics and gravity. After a torpedo strike caused a list, the ship capsized. As cold seawater rushed into the pressurized, superheated boilers, the resulting steam explosion exerted thousands of tons of internal pressure, tearing the 31,000-ton hull apart from the inside. Number 4. Bismarck. The 1941 mechanical death of the Bismarck was caused by a single 450-kilogram torpedo. The impact jammed the dual rudder assembly at a 12-degree port list. This created a permanent hydrodynamic drag that the 150,000-horsepower engines could not overcome. The pride of the Kriegsmarine was reduced to a kinetic prisoner, forced to sail in a permanent circle until intercepted. Number 5. Kirishima. During the 1942 naval battle of Guadalcanal, the Kirishima faced the United States Navy at a range of only 6,300 meters. It was struck by 9 heavy 16-inch shells. The mechanical autopsy revealed that the structural geometry of the hull was so severely warped that the main battery turrets lost their rotational alignment, rendering the ship's primary offense physically paralyzed. Number 6. HMS Hood. The 1941 destruction of HMS Hood is a study in flash fire vulnerability. A single 380mm shell from the Bismarck penetrated the thin deck armor and reached the 112 tons of cordite in the aft magazine. The resulting pressure wave was so immense that it physically detached the ship's midsection, causing it to sink in under 3 minutes. Number 7. Tirpitz. In 1944, the Royal Air Force utilized the 5.4-ton tallboy earthquake bombs to sink the Tirpitz. These munitions did not require a direct hit. They utilized the incompressibility of water to create a localized seismic event. The shock waves generated a lifting force that exceeded the ship's 52,000-ton displacement, flipping the giant inverted into the Norwegian mud. Number 8. HMS Prince of Wales. In 1941, a single torpedo strike on the Prince of Wales caused a catastrophic mechanical chain reaction. The impact bent a propeller shaft, which continued to spin at high RPM. This vibration tore through the watertight bulkheads and destroyed the main electrical switchboards. The ship lost all power to its pumps and anti-aircraft guns while still under fire. Number 9. Fuso. The Fuso was a mechanical anomaly with a 25-meter-tall pagoda mast. During the Battle of Surigao Strait in 1944, torpedoes struck the midsection magazine. The high center of gravity caused by the overbuilt superstructure accelerated the capsizing process. The ship broke into 2 distinct halves, both of which remained floating for over an hour as separate, burning scrap heaps. Number 10. USS Arizona. In 1941, a modified 800-kilogram armor-piercing bomb turned the Arizona into a chemical furnace. The bomb bypassed the deck defenses and detonated in the black powder magazine. The explosion converted 450,000 kilograms of propellant into expanding gas instantly, creating an internal pressure that the steel hull could not contain. Catastrophic structural failure followed. Number 11, USS Oklahoma. The Oklahoma was lost in 1941 due to an imbalance in kinetic absorption. It was struck by 9 torpedoes, all on the port side. Because the anti-torpedo bulges were designed for deep water dispersion, the shallow harbor depth prevented the energy from dissipating. The ship capsized 180 degrees in under 12 minutes, trapping hundreds in a pitch-black inverted tomb. Number 12, Musashi. The sister ship of the Yamato, the Musashi survived 19 torpedo and 17 bomb hits in 1944. Its death was a failure of the counter-flooding logic. To maintain balance, the crew pumped thousands of tons of seawater into the opposite compartments. Eventually, the ship became so heavy that its buoyancy became negative, and it slid beneath the waves on an even keel. Number 13, Scharnhorst. In the 1943 Battle of the North Cape, the Scharnhorst was defeated by the physics of the Arctic. The extreme low temperatures increased the ductile to brittle transition of the German armor steel. British 14-inch shells that might have bounced in warmer waters shattered the hull plates like glass, leading to rapid flooding in the sub-zero environment. Number 14, Jean Bart. In 1942, the Jean Bart was a stationary mechanical target in Casablanca. Despite being only 75% complete, it engaged in a duel with the USS Massachusetts. It was struck by 5 heavy shells that physically dismantled its unfinished upper works. It serves as a grim example of a battleship functioning as a fixed battery rather than a mobile weapon system. Number 15, Mutsu. In 1943, the Imperial Japanese Navy lost the Mutsu to a total failure of internal safety logic. While anchored at a safe port, its number 3 turret magazine exploded. There was no enemy, no bomb, and no torpedo. The autopsy suggested a chemical instability in the propellant or sabotage. The 40,000-ton ship was torn into 2 sections in 0.5 seconds. It remains the ultimate mechanical nightmare, a weapon that consumed itself. Tell me in the comments what you want to see dismantled in the next episode. Subscribe now and prepare for the next dissection of this silent war.